Illinois. I'm an attorney and financial planner and a plan giving consultant to schools and charities. And today I'm going to do a video discussing the charitable gift annuity. It's a very fine way for a charity to raise some money. It's also a way for a donor. See over here, a donor can receive 6 to 8% annual income for life while also making a large gift to charity. Or if that donor doesn't need the income that the charity would give it from the annuity, if he doesn't need to take the income back, then a donor can make a large gift to charity and have the gift essentially just be loaned to the charity, because the donor will get the gift back after the donor passes away. His children will get the gift back. So again, this is a concept called a charitable gift annuity, and just the definition: a charitable gift annuity is an arrangement where a donor gives a donation to charity. Let's say in our example we're going to use $100,000, and the charity gives set annual payments of principal and interest back to the donor for the rest of the donor's life. So the charity gets $100,000 from the donor and gives back income and principal every year to the donor for the rest of the donor's life. And the charity keeps the amount remaining in the account after the donor passes away. So if the donor passes away after the second year, the charity keeps all the money. If the donor lives 20 years, the charity has to keep on paying the donor. And we're going to see this in a spreadsheet here. This is a charitable gift annuity for a 75-year-old male. So you see here in year one, the donor gives $100,000 to the charity. Charity agrees to pay the donor. In our example, we're going to use 6.3% or $6,300 a year. That figure is not a market rate. Market rate doesn't give back 6.3%. It is a figure given by the Charitable Council on Gift Annuities, which suggests this rate. And this 6.3% represents, or $6,300 represents principal and interest. So you're constantly depleting the account to give the donor this $6,300. So you see, after the first year, the account value now has $93,700 in it, because it gave the donor $6,300. The account earns 3%. That's what the charity invests the account at, because the charity has to invest this money and keep it around for the donor. So at the end of the year, after it paid out $6,300 here, and it earned $2,800, it has the account value for the charity is $96,500. And if the donor were to die at this point, at 76 years old after 1 year, this is what the charity would get, the $96,511. Okay, the next year it starts with $96,511. Again, it pays $6,300 to the donor, leaving it with $90,000. It earns $2,700 at 3%. That's the rate that it earns in its account. And now it has $92,917. And you see, it goes every year like that. It has to pay out $6,300 and earn some interest. You see down here, year 11. That's when, if the donor were to die then, and that's about the life expectancy of the donor, the charity would get $55,314, and that's about 50% of the account value, which is why on day one, when the donor gives $100,000, he gets approximately a 50% interest, the charitable deduction for the gift. He doesn't get a $100,000 charitable deduction because he didn't give $100,000. He gave $100,000 when he dies, which based on his life expectancy is about 11 years, or $55,000 to the charity. You see here, though, the problem with the gift annuity is that if he lives too long, if he lives 20, in this case 22 years, the charity would have to start paying out of its own pocket. It wouldn't have money in the account anymore to pay the donor, and if the donor's still alive, it has to start paying out every year this $6,300, because that $6,300 is a contractual obligation on the charity. They have to pay the donor. So you see, if the donor lives too long, it starts becoming not worth it and even negative that the charity has to dip into its own money. Whereas if a donor dies in the year 1, 2, or 3, then the charity gets a lot of the money. Let's say he dies in year 3, the charity would get $89,000. So it's kind of a risk to the charity to take on to do this kind of thing. So what we're going to, and this is just seeing the same thing, not in a spreadsheet, where the payment to a charity is $100,000, payment back to the donor is $6,300. That's principal and interest. The charitable deduction that the donor gets on year one is about 50% of the gift, so about $50,000 deduction. And when the donor dies, the charity keeps the remaining value that's in the account. Okay. However, as we said, there's some drawbacks to the charitable gift annuity. Number one, the charity has to wait for the money until the donor passes away. Number two, the charity must invest the money and keep it invested wisely and not lose the money in the market, because if it loses the money, it still has to pay that $6,300 to the donor. Charity also has to administer the payments every year. They have to find the donor, make sure it gets to him. That $6,300, they have to pay it to him. It's their obligation. Charity is at risk if the donor lives very long. Like we said, if the donor lives into his 90s, the charity is going to be dipping into its own pocket to pay this money. the donor gives up the asset. So it tends to be small amounts because the donor gives up this 100,000 is given to the charity, and it doesn't come back to the donor. So these accounts tend to be a little small. And also the donor has to rely on the paying ability of the charity, because a charitable gift annuity is a legal obligation on the charity. So the donor has to be comfortable that this charity will be around in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to pay the donor the money. And that might prevent some of the donors from doing this. So what we're going to use to solve some of these drawbacks is what we're going to call charitable gift annuity and annuity reinsurance. Where we're going to do this, the donor goes and gives $100,000 to the charity the same way, that's the gift. Then the charity is going to go to an insurance company, an A-rated insurance company, and buy what's called a SPIA, single premium immediate annuity. And that single premium immediate annuity from the insurance company, in order to get to the donor $6,300 a year, only has to be $70,000, because the insurance company spreads its risk out over a lot more people. Their rates are much better. So the charity essentially says to the insurance company, how much do we need to give you to give this guy $6,300? He's the annuitant, it's on his life. And the insurance company says in this scenario, $70,000. You give us $70,000, we'll give him $6,300 a year, principal and interest. Now, if the person dies right away, the charity is going to get that bonanza. The charity is going to get that windfall, all the money. I mean, sorry, the insurance company is going to get that money. The insurance company is going to get the money because they're the ones holding the annuity. But the charity gets this $30,000 up front, because they only had to give the insurance company $70,000. They get to keep the $30,000, and then the donor gets the annual payments of $6,300 every year. Right? So if the charity did this with 10 donors, they would create $300,000 for the charity, and the insurance company would be taking care of all of the payments. So the benefits here are the charity doesn't have to wait for the money. Charity gets the money up front on day one. They get this $30,000. They get what they didn't need to give the insurance company for the annuity for the donor. They get that money up front. Charity doesn't have to invest the money because it's with the insurance company. Charity doesn't have to administer the payments. The payments of the $6,300 go directly to the donor from the insurance company. Charity is not at risk. If the donor dies very long, that's the insurance company's risk. Charity is going to get their $30,000 and walk away. A donor does not have to rely on the paying ability of the charity, because the charity, the insurance company is paying the donor, and they're an A-rated insurance company, and the donor doesn't have to worry that he may not get paid. However, the donor still has to give up the asset, and so if he doesn't need the income, we're going to replace the asset. There's another strategy we can use to replace the asset with a life insurance policy in the donor's estate. And the way it's going to work is like this. It's very similar, where we're going to call this charitable gift annuity reinsurance with replacement life insurance. So we're familiar with this. The same charity gets $100,000, same gift to the charity is $100,000. Charity is going to buy a SPIA, but it's going to use the entire $100,000, because in this case, the donor doesn't want to have the $6,300 payment. They don't need the income. Okay, so the charity is going to use the entire $100,000 and buy the same SPIA, same annuity, single premium immediate annuity on the donor's life. The income from that annuity, from the $100,000, is $9,000. Right, $70,000 got them $6,300 in income. $100,000 going to get $9,000. That $9,000 is going to go to the charity. And what the charity is going to do with that is they're going to use $5,000 of it to buy a $100,000 life insurance policy on the donor's life. So down here, see, when the donor dies, the insurance will pay back the $100,000 to the estate of the donor. So really, the donor just loaned the charity $100,000 until he died. If he doesn't need the money, when the donor dies, the money will come back to the donor's estate through the insurance policy. The difference between the $9,000 payment of the annuity to the charity and the $5,000 premium payment of the life insurance is $4,000. That payment is kept by the charity. So here's a way of charity to get $4,000 every year, and the donor didn't have to give up anything except the use of the $100,000. If he doesn't need it and doesn't need the income, it will come back to his estate. If the charity gets 10 donors to do this, they would get $40,000 to the charity each year, and all the donors would get all their money back at the end when they each died. So that's another way that we can use insurance and annuities and estate planning and plan giving. For more information about this strategy or other plan giving or estate planning concepts, please call me. Again, my name is Bill Cantor. My number is 847-674-6470. I also have this on I have other videos on my website, www.completeerp.com. Thank you very much.